How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Great. My name is Joshua Vazquez. My episode is The Creek, and I am one of the producers of WMWA. It is a audio platform for writers to demonstrate their skills, their beliefs, their kind of creative capacity, their potential. I think a lot of other things are kind of put together by the exact same people or like a group of very tight-knit people, and we as WMWA plan to branch out and grab talent from a great deal of sources, and we want that talent to really express different sides of either the human condition, the status of the world, and just like creative exploration. The sense of community that we're trying to harbor with WMWA is a pretty big part of it. I mean, it's in the title. Where my writer is at, it's literally a call to action to writers. And that's very important to us because cultivating a community that kind of promotes up and coming talent or talent that just never found the time to kind of actualize their potential. Now's the time. I'm like, there's no better time than now. Skills are something you build upon. I'm like, if you don't feel like you're there yet, build upon those skills. That's how this all got started. We're all up and coming creators and stuff, and a lot of us are pretty new and young in the game. But we're putting ourselves out there so that we can grow every day, develop our skills in multiple different ways. A lot of us do and facilitate different parts of the creative space. As a producer, I mean, me and Devin do a little bit of everything under the sun. So yeah, cultivating community that can offer those skills and offer those positions with educated people that are actively doing that is what we want to kind of foster and present opportunities and growth potential for people that may feel like they don't have those opportunities. Multiple different ways. One thing that a lot of people might not inherently notice is that stories are all about perspectives, and delivering these new perspectives can really help other people grasp either the world or different conflicts, different perspectives. A lot of people neglect other people just because they can't see their perspective. And speaking to a community, especially one throughout generations, one of humanity's greatest skills is the ability to pass down information from generation to generation. That's literally what we're doing. That's what storytelling is. It's taking these instinctual experiences, putting them in a palatable way and passing it down through generation and throughout kind of their community. Right? I'd say the importance of a storyteller, a scribe, would be basically somebody that is a grand observer, somebody that observes the phenomena, the behavioral patterns of their culture, their people, their community, the world at large, and is able to, yet again, either put that in a way, articulate that in a way that is digestible by the common folk, people that otherwise wouldn't have access to that knowledge, and allow information to be easily absorbed and passed down and made accessible, really. My inspiration for The Creek is a bit personal. It's actually roughly based off of a coworker turned good friend of mine, and kind of just helping this person through a pretty rough time in their life, and just seeing what they've been through, what they're going through, and the kind of hill they had to climb, and they still have to climb. It was a little bit heartbreaking, but it's also just like something that's incredibly relatable, just like the pressure of the world and what that does to a person. Like so many adults, especially right now, are probably feeling inadequate in some way, shape, or form just because of it's so hard to kind of live right now, whether it's the social pressures or finances, trying to find a good job, trying to keep a good job, trying to find a wage that matches the level of living people want to be at. So, so yeah, and the kind of the origin of the story was kind of trying to deliver what I saw this person was going through in a way that other people can digest as well as learn from. So. It was unlike my writing process for just about anything else. I'm like, I think I had just spent the day with the person I was referring to, and like just on the drive home, I was like really processing my emotions, dealing with his situation, trying to help him out because he's older than me, but I felt like I had some insight to give him, and just seeing how sometimes just words aren't enough for somebody. It's words unfortunately can't immediately change someone's life, but the repetition and prolonged exposure, like these stories, can really help somebody out. And I wrote the story basically all in about 2-3 hours. After that, I was just so inspired and so motivated to kind of deliver this person's story, in a sense, that I just had to put it down on paper, and it just came out of me so fluidly. The kind of process and spontaneous inspiration for a piece and getting that all down on paper, I chalk it up to a combination of variables, whether it's your emotional susceptibility to that inspiration. Like maybe at that time I was feeling exactly how the person in this story was feeling, where I was really feeling the pressure of life and I felt emasculated and kind of small, and I could entirely relate to this person, even though our circumstances might have been so incredibly different. And I'd have to say the inspiration does come out of partially necessity, and it is part of self-processing. I feel like a lot of writers don't realize that they enjoy writing because it's helping them process the world. It serves a sort of empirical function. There are observable kind of effects. I mean, it's like journaling. It's like you see your own progress go in your own headspace. I'm like, I see the headspace that I was in when I wrote this piece, which was 2 years ago today. I think everybody has a story to tell. I think a lot of people get caught up in what they see on TV and comparing themselves to that. Don't compare yourself to what you see on TV. I'm like, writing for me is incredibly personal. It's not about my parents, it's not about my friends, it's not about the grander audience, it's not about becoming famous. It's about honestly processing your emotions and kind of delivering something that is important to you, purely to you. I'm like, it took me a while to realize that, but I'm glad I did, and I feel like my writing is just 10 times better now. Because I'm only going to write stuff that is very near and dear to me. Where my writer's at did kind of was a spur of inspiration from my producer, Devin. He brought it up to me, called me up one day, and I was like, man, why is this guy calling me out of nowhere? But he hit me up with a cool idea. I was like, oh, of course I'm down with that. And I think we didn't have too much on our plates at the time, so we entertained the idea. And I don't think we realized that we were lighting a match for a real fire. And it really caught wind, and we really started cultivating what this would be, what the title would be. And then the stars really aligned when we met our sound engineer, who really was the missing link. Because me and Devin, I feel like we could have really could have cultivated all the resources, but to have that extra hand, such a necessary hand. It's like having the mind, but not having the body to operate with. So having the body, which is our sound engineer, was the final piece of the puzzle. I'm not going to say I'm hopeful or pessimistic for the future. I feel like every generation is like, oh, we're in the doom times, right? I feel like that's everybody, but That's humans. Humans are consumed by fear, and so of course we're gonna be more precautious than we are free and flowing, right? Me personally, I am very grateful to be a writer right now. With all this social and technological change, how could you not take advantage? There's so much information that you can have. There's so many resources that you can have if you're willing to sit down, create the focus for that, cultivate those resources, and really cultivate a clear, concise vision and bring that to life. Like, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So I think the world is in a state of pretty furious change, but a lot of it's for the better. I'm like, technology's growing exponentially. The rise of AI is upon us, and that's going to impact the world in a curious way. But yeah, I'm very grateful to be a writer right now. I think that it very much affects our subconscious. There is a clear role of storytelling, whether it's I'm a young person and I don't know who I am, so I watch this film and it gives me these archetypes and these guidelines for how I can conduct myself in the world and how I should act and how I shouldn't act. And that allows us to function better as a society, especially when our parents or our teachers aren't telling us these things. We absorb this knowledge through these movies, these books, and I think it's a unintentional, easy to consume guideline for how we can operate in the world. I decided I wanted to be a writer when I discovered that I will never be a superhero. One day when I was 13, I remember coming home from a family function and I was like down in the dumps for some reason. I couldn't remember the reason, but I remember it was raining. I was like, man, I just don't think I'm ever gonna be a superhero. I just don't think it's gonna happen. And I loved escapism stuff. I loved comic books and the idea of just being so powerful and capable and not having to be afraid of anything, a superhero, if you will. And I figured, oh, why keep imagining this for myself? Why don't I just put this down on paper and make it a more physical thing instead of just some narrative I created in my head? I could put it down on paper and cultivate that and bring the escapism to a better and more real and purposeful platform, I guess. I think escapism is in us all, whether it's you're doing drugs or you're watching TV or you experience something traumatic and you dissociate entirely and you literally reconfigure the situation so that you can actually palate it, which some people do for their lives. I think escapism is in all of us. I think it is our way of coping with the world. It makes the world more accessible. I mean, most of narrative fiction is escapism in some way, shape, or form, even if it has some deeper meanings. And I think a lot of writers may not realize that's their origins, and it's definitely nothing bad. Like I said, humans are consumed by fear, and that's our animal nature, and that's not a bad thing. It's all about how you react to that fear, and escapism is one way, and I think you can even elevate that. And yet again, storytelling helps us work through our own emotions and these things that are going through our lives. I personally love revisiting the things I've written. I'm like, oh, I totally remember that mind state that I was in when I wrote that, and that's really telling of the times in my mind state. And it's also a little bit of a time stamp for me. I'm like, oh yeah, I see how much I've grown since then too. So one's a literary and visual medium. One's a purely literary medium. I think that webcomics or comics in general, make for a good easy to grasp, easy to digest, story that is pretty equal parts world and visuals, which this piece is, as well as the coinciding narrative. It's a little hard to determine what would fit a webcomic better than kind of a short narrative piece or a short film. Definitely, I think a webcomic gives you, the reason why I wanted to do a webcomic was because it gives you this whole range of expression. Like animation gives you this whole range of freedom that a short film, especially us more new to the field, to this creative space, gives us more freedom and stuff. So I really appreciate that liberty, and you really let your creativity flourish and grow and express itself. I definitely think a lot of people aren't trained on how to deal with their emotions, and so a lot of this bottling up does end up happening. And guess what happens when somebody bottles up their emotions and has no venue to let it out? One day that bottle's going to burst, and who knows who's going to be in front of that bottle. So I do think putting this stuff down on paper, having an appropriate venue to kind of pilfer through your emotions and sort them and recognize them, and awareness is a huge thing, where like a lot of people just aren't aware of the stuff that they're going through, or they put themselves through, or other people put them through. So detailing what's going on in your life can really add clarity and power over it, because it shines a light on it, and now you know what the problem is, and you can further take actions to cut it from your life or adjust it in some way, limit your relationship with it. I will say I did not worship anybody. I was the kid that looked up to nobody. I looked up to myself and an ideal that I created in my own head. Like, I can't regurgitate any names in particular. Now I can regurgitate people that I admire their work, I guess, but that's as far as I can go. And I expose myself to so much. Like right now, I'm reading a bunch anthologies from Ray Bradbury. I think he's a great mind that explores a good amount of the human condition, especially in perspectives that aren't often presented. So yeah. I mean, going back to the whole fear thing, I want to say it's horror, but it's not horror. Like, the horror genre isn't what it could be, and I hope to make a grand contribution to it and change the tone or direction of in some way, shape, or form of horror. See that in the future. But like, I wouldn't say a genre, but maybe an attitude in narrative fiction, where people combating great conflicts or overcoming great challenges, or a feeling of hopelessness, which I feel like is pretty present right now in our society. I just feel like there's a sense of a lack of hope and light at the end of the tunnel, which is kind of brought about by a lot of different variables, whether it's financial, social, and I'd encourage people to look more on the bright side. Like, there's a lot of great things happening right now. I know we're in the information age, and the information age feeds off of fear mongering, because that's what gets the most clicks, the most likes, the most views. But there are a lot of, for every terrible thing that's happening out there, there's also a great advancement in technology, a great deed that has been done. So try not to loom too much on the fear and the sadness and the loss, because whenever somebody dies, guess what? Another person's born. I am very much a product of my father, and my father is the son of an immigrant from Puerto Rico, and my grandfather, who lived in Puerto Rico, he was a pastor in Puerto Rico. He moved here, was a mailman. He had 8 children, and he lived in East Harlem in the 70s. Hard to imagine a rougher place and time in America. But my family's all about a growth mentality. Just be a better person. They're super Christian. So that's something that's ingrained in me. I'm just like, I always want to be better than I was yesterday. As my boy Ronnie always says, I was like, totally agree with him. And that's something that I live by, and I highly encourage everybody to adopt that mentality. I guarantee you will see progress if you just take incremental growth. Don't worry about taking the big leap. It's not always about, I want to go from writing a one-page short story to writing the next big movie. It's not, don't expect that big leap. Take incremental growth and just work on it every day, whether it's making yourself more disciplined, more focused, rearranging your priorities, and you will see a difference over time. That would be my message. My legacy, I would want to be my children personally. I'm all about investing in the youth of the nation. Invest in your children. They are the future. Literally, if you invest in your children and teach them how to operate in the world will become better so fast. If all of us did that, the world would become better so fast. Instill them with great priorities, and the world will get better within 20 to 30 years. A world where people want to be the best that they can be and try to conquer fear in a healthy way, as well as instill unity. Like I'm so sick of people hating one another and us fighting with other nations when we have so much potential to be so much more, establish better communities, and improve technology. I'm like, technology is the gateway to everything we ever wanted. I'm like, there will be no more wars if we just focus on technology to develop our resources. There will be no need for poverty if we could use technology to fill in the gaps. And everyone's like, oh, automation and stuff. I'm like, yeah, automation can still steal jobs, but you can also just create more jobs in other faculties. I'm like, one of the writers that I will say I was inspired by is H.P. Lovecraft. And though he has his flawed mentalities, he also has some great ones where, like, his dream world is a world where there is no working class. Everybody is the upper class, and everybody just has time to think and create and share ideas and be this unified community where we just express the beauty of life and have all these quandaries and stuff, where automation takes care of everything else. And it's hard for me not to say that that's something I'd like for the future as well. One thing I want to say is that, one thing I want to say about the growth of technology is our child. And though it's growing up very fast, and maybe faster than we're able to keep up with, I know that child seems like it's going to run out of the house way too soon, and we're not going to be able to get them back. But we are still the parent, and as long as we set up the right guidelines and discipline, this child will not get out of control. But we also live in a very competitive market, of which this competition is going to make people want to make this child or technology grow up faster than we can keep hold of them and discipline them and make sure we have the right foundation for this technology to be exactly what we want it to facilitate. Like AI. Like, AI could easily grow out of our control if we're not disciplined enough. And it is a very powerful tool. But if we take the right precautions, we won't have too much to fear. So the future of Where My Riders At, I'm very hopeful for. I think, yet again, I'm all about cultivating a community of passionate, diligent people, creatives that are willing to grow. I will say that us as a team will provide a great amount of resources for those that will reach out to us, but we also expect a lot from those who reach out to us. Like we're pulling the actors, we're recording them, we're providing a studio, we're editing the final product, we're going to do an interview process for these writers. We're literally taking care of everything for these writers, so we expect these writers to have the diligence, consistency, professionalism to respect us as a team that's providing this for them, as well as put forth their best effort. I want to see it in your writing. I want to see it in the way that you approach us. I want to see it in the three things that we'll probably ask you for, the three main things, which is your script and a workshop for it, to direct your script and your vision, and for these interviews. Like those are the three big things that will be required if you want to be a part of next season. And we will have this all streamlined, and it will be strictly better than it is right now for the next season. So we do have high expectations for you, but we also have high hopes for you. So if you're out there, send your ambitions our way, and we hope that you make it to the selection stage and that you get brought on. So to get involved in WMWA, Where My Riders At, and the community that we're trying to cultivate, we very much want you, I'll say that, but we also have high expectations for you and high hopes for you. So we expect you to be respectful to us. We are providing you with a great service. We're literally a studio. We are pulling the actors. We're editing your piece. We're promoting your piece, publishing your piece, and everything. I mean, the full shebang, and cultivating a community that will hopefully follow you as a creator, because we will be spotlighting you as a creator. So we hope that you bring your A game. We want to see your full effort in your script. I want you to present a story to us that is very personal and very something that you're very passionate about. We also want to see it in your communication. We expect you to be efficient and professional, just like we will be to you. Go check out Where My Riders At, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. Check out my episode, The Creek by Joshua Vazquez.